He says to them, since we first heard about your church in Colossae, Paul, out of Ephesus, kind of founded this church. He said, since we first heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. He is pumped about this church, and he is constantly praying for it. And so he says to them in verse 2 of chapter 4, he says, devote yourselves to prayer. And now he is encouraging them to be prayer warriors. And one of the things that I get from that, devote actually means be consistent, be intentional, be persistent. And I get this connect that devote is really his attempt to show this church the possibility of connecting with Jesus in a way that is so intimate and so life-filled. And he is saying, devote yourself to prayer because this is what you can have. Blessings from this God who loves you, crazy love for you. And when I think of it in those terms, I can't help but think of my wife, my relationship with her. Because I have this gift in my relationship with my wife, and I'm devoted to her. And we have a really great relationship. We've been married now for working on 21 years. Had our 20th in October. And I can honestly say that over the course of our years, there has been seasons in our relationship where, you know what, it wasn't that connected. It wasn't that intimate. There were seasons, especially early on, when we were trying to figure it all out, where we were married, absolutely, but we really didn't have that intimate sense that we were one flesh. That was missing. For whatever reason, it was missing. And I kind of make the connect that what happens sometimes in relationship with Jesus is that Christians can kind of be in that place where we're Christians, kind of like we're married, but we're not connected. We're not intimately having that relationship with Jesus that is available to us. And so I think of it that way, but I also think of the years of my marriage with Lisa, and I can honestly say that for the last several years, 10, 12 years, we have been characterized by being connected and intimate. We have had a really good relationship, and the blessing of that in my life has really, really been a great thing. And I can say it this way, that the connections that we have had that have really connected us in intimate ways has always, always flowed out of my devotion to her. When I devote myself, when I'm consistent with her, when I persist with her, when I commit myself to her, it's better. It returns blessing, just like it does with God. And I think that is really what Paul is saying here. Devote yourself to God. Now, I want to aim us towards this next piece. He says, devote yourselves to prayer, but then he's got this wording in there that says, being watchful. Being watchful. And all of a sudden, I start to think about this in the context of marriage. And I remember what Paul said a chapter ago when Justin was covering this last week in verse 19 of chapter 3. He says that husbands, you're to love your wives. You're to love them. You're not to be harsh with them, because if you do that, what happens? You're straining intimacy. You're not being watchful over your marriage. And I, as a man, I'll say it this way, because God created men with this weird sexual drive that operates so different than women. We're so visual. And as a man, I've got to be watchful over that. I have to be faithful with my eyes. I don't look at other women the way I am supposed to look at my wife. I am watchful over that. I don't give that away. I'm protecting that intimacy that God has given us. Paul says, be watchful. And one of the translations out there, the New American Standard, says it this way, devote yourselves to prayer, being alert. Being alert. And for me, what that does is it kind of puts this image in my mind of a defensive foxhole type of a scenario where you're dug in and you're alert. You're watching out for what could potentially come against the intimacy, in this case, the intimacy that is available for us with God. Watch out. Be alert. As if there's something out there that wants to tear that apart, wants to rip it off, steal from your intimate connection with God.